interference bill. We'll bring in Alex Scrivener, who is the executive director of the think tank, the Democratic Security Institute. Welcome to Al Jazeera. You're speaking to us from Tbilisi as well. So as we look at that live picture in front of Parliament, where our correspondent was saying things seem to be escalating between, the protesters are not happy now that this bill has passed. What's your reaction?
Well, saying the protesters are unhappy is an understatement. It's hard to overstate the existential importance that defeating this bill has for many people in Georgia. The cries of anger you're hearing on the streets from the young protesters is the cry of anger of an entire generation that feels betrayed by the government's decision to pass this legislation that's seen correctly as a first step towards authoritarian crackdown against civil society.
Yeah.
And yes, there was a lot of anger.
Yeah, the opponents certainly say that this bill is modeled on a Russian law that has been used to clamp down on dissent. But those who support it say the law is about transparency and preventing outside influence on Georgian politics.
Very few people outside the government and people that they pay directly really believe it is about transparency. It's targeted very specifically at civil society sectors. So sort of people who speak truth to power, charity organizations, political advocacy groups, and so forth. And the entire sector in this country, there's almost not a single organization in Georgia that doesn't get some funding from abroad. It's a very poor country. It's a very small country. So, almost everyone gets some degree of money or support from abroad. So basically, it means it covers everybody. And it gives the government the tools to be able to intimidate organizations that, may not be politically partisan, but will still be monitoring things like human rights, the democratic conduct of elections, and so forth.
Could there be European consequences going forward? Because we know that European countries, some of them at least, have urged or been urging Georgia to stop this process.
Oh, of course. That's why so many people are out in the streets. It goes far beyond just this one law. For Georgians, it's been a sort of a national aim to get out of the orbit of authoritarian Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, and towards the European Union, which is a symbol of democracy and freedom for most people in Georgia. The polls suggest between 80 and 90% of people support EU membership. So it's one of the most pro-EU countries in the world. So this law, EU officials have said, is incompatible with EU membership. So basically, this is the Georgian government saying no to that, in direct contravention of the mandate on which this government was elected in 2020, when it promised to bring Georgia closer to the European Union.
So what do you think, then, this means for EU membership?
Well, if this law passes, then it doesn't go any further. But the Georgian people don't look like they're going to take that fact lying down. Georgia has fought for over 3 decades to join the European Union. It's not going to let one law and one government get in the way of that. The other day, about a third of the entire population of the capital city, Tbilisi, was out on the streets. People are about 300,000 people. This is a city of 1 million people. So, the opposition to this law is immense. It's huge. The elections are coming in October. It's very hard to see how this government wins the election in October with this kind of law in place.
But what is it that the protesters, look, you were mentioning, they've been out for months, and we're looking at the pictures right now, the latest pictures from Tbilisi. Protesters still out. They're clearly trying to put pressure on the government, but it doesn't seem like it's working at all.
Well, historically, it has worked. Last year, this law was proposed for the first time, and mass protests put a stop to it. This time, the government seems more determined, and no one can really work out why. Most people can guess that Russia has something to do with it, and that Russia has put pressure on the Georgian government to pass this come what may, which angers demonstrators further, because Russia is the colonial power here in Georgia. Georgians have spent 2 centuries fighting Russian influence. So it actually makes people more angry and more willing to come out into the streets to try and stop this. So yeah, it's a standoff at the moment. Neither side feels like they're going to be standing down. And the elections are coming in October. It looks like it's going to be a very difficult few months ahead.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you for speaking to us from Tbilisi.